Hi, my name is Wolf, and through this series of videos I'm going to try and explain the crazy, over-the-top world nerds like me love so much, which is the grim dark universe known as Warhammer 40,000 for absolute beginners. So get comfy and prepare yourself for a Noob-Splaining session. So as promised in the last video, here we have each faction from a lore point of view. Now let me be clear, there are no good guys in 40k, just varying degrees of bad. So with that in mind, let's get started. The Space Marines, or more formally known as the Legiones Astartes. They are genetically enhanced super soldiers, technically child soldiers, as in each and every one was inducted as a normal human around the age of 12 and spent the next 8 to 10 years trying to survive the absurdly difficult trials and surgeries that come with being a genetically enhanced super soldier. When you think genetically enhanced, if you think Captain America and his levels of justice and righteousness, the Space Marines are definitely not that. In fact, if justice and righteousness were actual people, the Space Marines would probably kill them.
For the Emperor!
And then murder all their friends and family too.
For the Emperor!
Just to be sure.
For the Emperor!
Damn it, there's only so much zeal I can take in one session.
For the Emperor!
Get out. Grey Knights. Although technically a faction of its own, in reality they are just Space Marines with psychic powers that are very, very good at killing demons. Think the SAS or SEALs of Space Marines, but with weapons and armour designed to kill only one enemy, namely said demons. For years these were only available as an optional extra within Space Marine armies, to give them an edge over the murderous killing machines that are the greater demons. However, in a blatant cash grab, which if you're new to Warhammer 40k, trust me, it's very, very rare that Games Workshop do a blatant cash grab, and those watching who are into the hobby, please back me up in the comments section with that. Anyway, the Grey Knights were then moved into a standalone faction, given a bunch of new lore and some new troop types, all glammed up in amazing silver armour because silver goes to second best, and when it comes to super soldiers, they are the second best. Next we have the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's personal bodyguard. Now if Space Marines are super soldiers, and the Grey Knights are super soldiers, then these are the super special super soldiers that specialise in being super special soldiers, and I did that in one take. The pinnacle of genetically engineering the ultimate killing machines. Now only 10,000 of these warriors exist in the galaxy that has several trillions of inhabitants. They are masters of every kind of combat, and their idea of a warm-up is being parachuted into North Korea wrapped in just the US flag. Once they get back home they will eat breakfast and then do it again just for fun. They're all decked out in customised gold armour because they are the best genetically engineered killers ever. The Imperial Guard, or the Astra Militarum to give it its formal name, they are the normal human rank and file troops. They look very similar to the mobile infantry from Starship Troopers but die in much, much bigger numbers, being just normal humans with lasguns. Now the lasgun is often joked about as just being a flashlight, but in reality it has the power to punch through most types of body armour. The main tactic of the Guard, seeing as they have 30 billion, yes, billion, plus troops available, is just throw a wave of manpower, tanks and artillery ordnance at a problem until the problem is either dead, gets bored or goes home. Surviving the first hour of an engagement in the Guard makes you a veteran. To be a Guardsman and survive anything longer than a couple of days, you need more balls than an angry chihuahua that just dived into a snake pit. The Adeptus Mechanicus, the Mars-based Stark Enterprises of the Imperium. Basically, they build all the guns, tanks and spaceships that every single human uses. They are primarily an intelligent race of humans that extend their lifespans through cybernetics, but innovative thought will get you shot. Their armies consist of cyborgs, lobotomized cyborgs and very basic robots. Don't piss them off though, as they also have titans and planet killer bombs. Also rumoured they like to do naughty things to toasters. The Sisters of Battle, the female version of Space Marines, because
praise the Emperor!
Don't open the can of worms that Space Marines can be female. Trust me on that one. Now this is the army of the Church, but the letter of the law says the Church cannot have men-at-arms, so they got around that by making women-at-arms. Not having the genetical enhancements the psychopath cousins that are the Space Marines have, so instead are fundamentalist religious psychopaths. Have a penchant for burning everything that isn't actively praising the Emperor and shooting those that aren't praying hard enough. They do all this while singing hymns.
In his name we bring fiery retribution!
How dainty. The Tyranids. Now think the bugs from Starship Troopers, but with more claws and the ability to spit acid and a bigger appetite that consists of only wanting to eat you and your friends. So they're the bugs crossed with aliens if the aliens could spit their own blood and had 4 arms and wanted to eat you and your friends. Hell, their guns even launch mini bugs at you that will either explode on contact in a splash of acid or eat your face off, or some equally horrible way to die. Then they will eat you and your friends. 2 things you need to know: they will eat you, and then they will eat your friends. They exist only to devour every piece of organic material on the whole planet so they can make more of themselves. Did I mention they will eat you? And then your friends. The Gene Stealer cults. Originally the cults appeared in the Tyranid army list, but just recently, and totally not a blatant cash grab, have been given their own army list. Now the Gene Stealer itself is one of the Tyranid's most elite and deadly units. It makes both the Xenomorph and the Predator look like goldfish, while it's the Great White in the Apex Predator pond. The Gene Stealers basically set up a cult on a planet by infecting as many people as possible, alien style, but with a kiss, not a facehugger. However, instead of growing a new Gene Stealer inside of you, your future generations are the Gene Stealer. After 4 generations and a well-established cult, they then send out a psychic signal for the Tyranids to show up for a free buffet. The cultists have been known to turn limos into technicals, which is always fun to see. I mean, who wouldn't want to own a stretch limo with a minigun on the roof while you're waiting for the Tyranids to show up, to then eat you, and your friends? And generally this is the point they realised they were screwed. The craft world Eldar, now called Eldari because Eldari is copyrightable, Eldar is not anymore. Yep, that was the reason for the name change, I shit you not. Anyway, the oh sod it, they're the Eldar, they're the good space elves. When I say good, I mean actively neutral compared to the other elves who love BDSM and torture because they have to, for reasons. The craft world Eldar don't give a crap about anything but themselves. And just like all elves should be, they're tall, slender, fast, arrogant and selfish. Will happily watch your planet burn and the Tyranids eat you and your friends if it doesn't affect them. They will even lead the Tyranids to your planet just so they can get away. And as far as I'm concerned, they will always be the Eldar. This Eldari crap or whatever, it can jog on. Dark Eldar, now called Drukhari, for the same reason as Eldari. They keep themselves alive by torturing others for as long as possible, as to them BDSM is not just a hobby, it is their prime food group that grants them eternal life. I'll explain how in another video, but basically if your town is hit by a Dark Eldar raiding party, you're better off dead than being taken prisoner by these bastards. A Tyranid will just eat you, a Space Marine will shoot you till you explode. However, a Dark Eldar has to torture you for months, possibly years, to feed itself, and then when it's bored it will turn you into a sofa, and make sure you never die, but instead spend the rest of your miserable days in utter agony twisted into a piece of furniture, while some fetish-loving emo space elf sits on what used to be your head, while flicking through the latest IKEA catalogue, trying to decide what set of cupboards to make your friends into. At least the slender bastards don't weigh much. The Harlequins, our third and final bunch of playable space elves. They're more akin to a travelling circus than an actual army. The Eldar don't give a damn about anything except themselves. The Dark Eldar want to torture everyone, including themselves, and the Harlequins sit somewhere in the middle of that. Everything they do is down to the whim of their laughing god, whose sense of humour is about as much fun as crawling naked through nettles. For years the Harlequins were only available as an addition to the main army list. But now you can take this bunch of Eldar performers that dress as killer clowns and ballet their way through the enemy while severing heads from bodies as a standalone faction, which was definitely not another blatant cash grab. Literally dancing with death, these clowns are the epitome of gracefully murdering the shit out of the enemy. Tau, the youngest faction in the lore. They have a visual look that was clearly inspired by the mech suits of manga, and so clearly not a cash grab at anime fans. They are arguably the best shooty army in the setting. They can switch easily between sniping the nuts off a mosquito at 1,000 yards to filling the atmosphere with more ordnance than there is gas molecules. In hand to hand they have all the combat abilities of a defrosted tub of ice cream, which means they have slightly less survivability than a baby rabbit and a wood chipper. All for the greater good.
How can this be for the greater good? The greater good. Shut it!
And I mean the Hot Fuzz greater good.
The greater good. Shut it!
More than the communist greater good.
The greater good. Shut it!
Necrons, the space skeleton robots. They have a visual look similar to a T-800 and have the annoying habit of getting back up after you kill them, like in any good undead horror movie. In short, Games Workshop realised they don't have an undead faction in space, so came up with these self-repairing murder bots that totally wasn't a cash grab at getting the fantasy undead players or any Terminator fans into 40k. Once ruled a large portion of the galaxy, then had a little nap for about 60,000 years. They are now slowly waking up in their buried tombs around the galaxy and decided that they went there and back. The Leagues of Votan. One of the original armies when 40k was first released, but back then they were called the Squats, on the account that they are, well, space dwarfs, and I'm pretty sure it's no longer an acceptable way to speak about space dwarfs. They had a space dwarf biker gang visual feel, complete with trikes with guns and extended handlebars, all Hell's Angels style. Nobody was playing them, so the model range was pulled from shelves what felt like 20 years ago now. Oh wait, it was. In lore it was said that they were all eaten by the Tyranids and their friends. Turns out the tough little bastards are not that digestible, so they're back, and now have a visual aesthetic that makes them look more like miners. The Orcs. Often seen and portrayed as the comic relief of the setting, Orcs live to fight, and their hierarchy consists of who's the biggest is in charge, and the more they fight, the bigger they get. Would be a real problem if they didn't spend half their time killing each other. They can't aim for shit, but can throw that much hot lead at the opponent, something is going to land. That is, of course, their guns don't blow up first. They're big and strong in hand to hand and can stick an axe through a Space Marine's armour. Actually a form of fungus that grows into a, I would say intelligent, but into a creature. They attract the more orcs the more they fight, and thus spread more fungus spores, creating more orcs. Have a funny way of making things come true if enough of them believe in it. Chaos Space Marines. Now, these are Space Marines that have pledged themselves to the Chaos Gods. Instead of loyally and blindly killing anything that they are pointed at by the Imperium,
For the Emperor!
these Marines are self-aware enough to just say, screw this, I'm going to kill whatever I want, whenever I want.
Death to the false Emperor!
And then, depending on which of the 4 gods they are aligned with, they will either infect the whole planet with diseases, blast you with space lightning to mutate you, take your skull to add to a pile, or just straight up violate your corpse. They will also do all the above to the survivors. Sounds like a normal night in for the Council Chavs 2 blocks down the road. The Chaos Demons. At some point, Games Workshop decided that the demons, in not another blatant cash grab, can be an army all on their own, as well as helping out their mates in the Chaos Marines from time to time, despite already appearing in the Chaos Marines list. Now, the infantry units are generally weak and rely on sheer numbers, but the bigger units like the Greater Demons can be insanely powerful. For a long time, the Greater Demon of Khorne, called a Bloodthirster, was one of the most powerful units in both the fantasy and 40k settings, both on the table and in lore. A Bloodthirster can butcher an enemy army faster and harder than a Karen can ruin a manager's day. Now, the 4 Chaos Gods hate each other, so you'll only ever see a roaming band of demons from one of the gods before they totally ruin your day in a very permanent way. Knights. Now, knights are gigantic 2-legged walking mechs that come in 2 sizes, Sofa King Big and Sofa King Bigger. Both are equipped with guns that powerful they can turn most infantry into a pace so well blended and smooth it is Michelin 5-star approved. Any tanks you have are just one target lock away from evolving into their elemental form of a flaming pile of molten metal. They can dish out more death per turn faster than Chef Ramsay losing his temper with a wannabe cook who just mistook chicken for beef. Also come in a Chaos variety, which has exactly the same flavours but with extra spiky bits and skulls because, well, Chaos. And there you have it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share with someone who will enjoy it. I won't ever be doing a Patreon or a merch store, so if you laughed at this or learned something, then clicking subscribe is the best way you can show your support for me. Thank you. Now I'll catch you next time where I'll be giving a brief explanation of the factions from a tabletop point of view, including strengths, weaknesses, size of armies, and roughly how many organs or limbs you're going to need to sell to buy a full army.